I decided to do my family's traditional stuffed tomato recipe. It comes from Sephardic Jew heritage. Um, for the decolonial part, this is the first part. I decided to make my own breadcrumbs. Part of this recipe is about using every last bit of the food that you're eating. So I decided to use some leftover bread that I had in the freezer to make these breadcrumbs. Um, my family, we're Sephardic Jews. We were living in Spain in like 1400 something, before the Spanish Inquisition, and we were pushed out during the Spanish Inquisition and moved to Turkey. But stuffed tomatoes has been a Sephardic Jewish classic cuisine, I guess, for a long time. Here I'm smushing the breadcrumbs. I tried a different way before. The bag and a rolling pin worked best. I got my tomatoes from a woman who owns a farm. I work at a restaurant and we give her our scrap food to feed her pigs. So when I told her about this, she gifted me many tomatoes from her farm, which was great. I use this grass-fed beef from Hawaii, which another decolonial part. Hawaiian salt that my roommate actually bought, but we have a lot of it, so I use it all the time, and that is a great addition. For the stuffed tomatoes, you take the ground beef, you add a few eggs, and then pepper and salt, and that is it, and you mash it up with your hands. It is, and the breadcrumbs. These are the breadcrumbs that I made. It is a kind of weird feeling process on your hands, and you just have to sit through it and mash away with your hands. Anyways, my family uses a pretty basic original recipe in terms of stuffed tomatoes. After we were, or I guess like Jews were pushed out of Spain, a lot of people did go to the Ottoman Empire, like Turkey nowadays. And that's where the term dolma, which is often stuffed vegetables, became something well known. So using what we had, which was bread and meat, we took that and stuffed tomatoes. A lot of people nowadays do stuff the tomatoes with cheese or put cheese on top and other vegetables. Here you can see me cutting the tops off the tomatoes, then use a spoon and scoop out the inside, and you save the inside. That is part of using the entire tomato. Later on, you'll see what we do with that, but overall, it was a pretty fun process. I've never cooked these before, but I grew up eating them, so finally I got to do it myself. I asked my aunt and my mom, and they both gave me slightly different information on how to do it, but here's a very stretched out video of the tomatoes hollowed out. Sorry about that. I'm not the best at editing. So now I have the tomatoes in a pan, and I'm going to stuff them with meat. Again, this meat is just egg, salt, and pepper, and breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs, which I made, the tomatoes, which I got from the farm, the meat, which was local ground beef that I found at Foodland, and the salt was Hawaiian salt. So I was thinking of adding poi to the beef mix to try something new, but I decided against it because I didn't want to take away from the original recipe, and I think the texture would just be a little bit different, well, very different than what it's supposed to be. Also, apologies for the double chin. This was poor angling. I didn't really know how else to do this. So I am stuffing the tomatoes full, putting the top on, and then flipping them upside down and putting them in the pan. There's nothing else in the pan so far, just the stuffed tomatoes upside down. and I pack them in pretty tight, which you can see right here in another awfully stretched out video. Sorry about that. And here I put the topping over it, the inside of the tomatoes over it, sprinkled with some sugar. And then I put them on the stove to try to evaporate some of the liquid. So I let them on the stove for like an hour, trying to evaporate that liquid. I put it on medium, sugar on top, you can kind of see it. I think I should have left them on for longer personally. Both my aunt and my mom were giving me mixed, I don't know, comments on what to do. But here you can see it boiling. Eventually I put them in the oven and I left them in there for at least an hour, and here are they're done. And this is it. This is stuffed tomatoes.